She gave 5 years of her life to the company, built their entire system from scratch, worked nights, weekends, and holidays. And when the big money came in, they fired her without warning, without thanks, without even looking her in the eye. But what they didn't know was that she was the only one who truly understood the system. And she never forgot where she hid the keys. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about power, silence, and the moment she decided to take it all back. They always say endings are quiet, but mine started with 5 words that still echo in my head. Don't worry, nobody will remember. That's what Logan said. Right after I signed the severance papers, 5 years, 70-hour weeks, bloodshot eyes, code written under fluorescent lights at 2 a.m., reduced to a single digital signature and a shrug from the man who once called me the backbone of the product. I didn't flinch. Not in front of him. Not in that glass office that looked out over downtown San Diego like a throne room. He didn't even look up. Just kept typing, his reflection glowing off the floor-to-ceiling windows that were only installed after we secured that $10 million Series A money I helped bring in. Money we wouldn't have without the tech I built. I appreciate the opportunity, I said, standing. My voice, even. Professional to the bitter end. That's me. Or at least, that was me. Dana Whitaker, former senior systems engineer. As of 3 minutes ago, I walked through the office, my heels clicking too loudly on the polished concrete. No one knew. Not yet. I passed the same engineers who used my code, daily code, that still powered every part of Quantum Shift's infrastructure. A system I designed back when we were coding on fold-out tables in a sweaty warehouse with broken air conditioning. Heading out early? Someone called Thomas, one of the newer hires. Cheerful, clueless. Something like that, I replied, my smile thin, not quite reaching my eyes. Back at my desk, I packed up my life into a single canvas tote. 1 plant, 1 photo, 1 coffee mug. 5 years, and that's all I had to carry. And yet I wasn't angry. Not yet. As I waited for the elevator, Logan's words echoed again. Nobody will remember. It wasn't just cruel. It was wrong. Because every critical line of code, every configuration, every system parameter, they had my fingerprints, my structure, my shorthand, and nobody else understood it quite the way I did. The elevator doors closed behind me, and that's when it hit me. They really didn't know what they'd just done. Not only did they fire the one person who could navigate that system blindfolded, they fired the only person who knew how it actually worked. I wasn't raised to be vengeful, but I was raised to be thorough. I remembered my father brilliant, undercredited, discarded by his own company after designing a battery system ahead of its time. They took his work, erased his name, and left him in the shadows. I swore I'd never let that happen to me. So 3 weeks ago, when the meetings started happening behind closed doors, when Logan stopped copying me on investor updates, when a guy named Troy suddenly appeared at engineering stand-ups, I saw the writing on the wall. I didn't panic. I prepared. On the drive home, I called my attorney. They let me go, I said simply. There was a pause, then a quiet hum from Valerie. And the severance? 6 months. Standard NDA. Nothing about intellectual property. I heard her smile through the phone. Smart girl. You sent me the files. You've been documenting this for years. My father taught me, always keep your receipts. And I did. Architecture diagrams, Git commit logs, emails, everything. Especially the original framework of the authentication system. The one that made our product different, the one I built before I ever joined the company. And the best part? They had no idea. The next morning, I didn't check Slack, didn't open my inbox. I made eggs, Saturday by the window, let the light hit my face. It was the first time in 5 years I felt still. By the afternoon, I was in Valerie's office, and she had my work printed out across a conference table like it was evidence in a criminal trial. "Dana, this is gold. Most people don't document like this. They weren't raised by an engineer who got robbed." She leaned back in her chair. "So, what do you want to do?" I looked down at the lines of code, the diagrams, the version logs, my life's work. "I don't want revenge," I said quietly. "But I do want recognition, and I want to be ready." She nodded. "Oh, they'll come crawling back. Companies like that always do. Just make sure they crawl far enough." And so, I waited. 3 weeks later, I was sipping a latte in a beachside cafe when my phone rang. It was Joseph, Quantum Shift's CTO. "Dana," he said, voice falsely cheerful. "How have you been?" I almost laughed. The game had just begun. I didn't check my email the next morning, didn't open Slack, didn't touch a single line of code. Instead, I slept in until 9 a.m. for the first time in 5 years. Made myself breakfast. Real breakfast. Fried eggs just the way I like them, with crispy edges and soft yolks. Toast with actual butter, and a fresh cup of coffee that I didn't gulp down in a rush. I sat by the window in my apartment, the one I barely remembered renting, watching the light move across the floor. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel rushed. Didn't feel behind. I didn't feel like I was racing a clock I never set. I just felt still. Not numb, just clean. Like something heavy had been pulled off my chest, and I could finally take a deep breath without flinching. That afternoon, I went to Valerie's office. She was already there, standing beside the long oak conference table, and it was covered with paper-me paper. Printouts of my diagrams, version control logs, archived emails, documentation drafts, and a copy of the GitHub repo I'd created before I ever stepped foot inside Quantum Shift. All of it proof that I didn't just build something, I built the thing, and I kept records. Because I knew better. Valerie looked over the table, then looked at me. "Dana, this is gold. Most people don't keep receipts like this." "My dad taught me to," I said, barely above a whisper. "He lost everything once. I swore I wouldn't." She nodded. "So what do you want to do?" I stared down at the files, memories flashing across my mind. Late nights, greasy takeout, coffee that had gone cold, drawings on the backs of napkins, code written on no sleep. I remembered who I was in those moments. Not the employee, the builder. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want them to understand what they lost." Valerie smiled, slow and knowing. "They will. They always do. Just make sure you're ready when they come knocking." 3 days later, they did. I was at a bookstore when my phone buzzed. Missed call from Joseph, then a voicemail. I didn't listen right away. When I did, I had to stop myself from laughing out loud. "Hey Dana, we've run into a few snags with the new release. Some of the architecture decisions you made. Well, the team's having trouble translating them. We were hoping you'd be open to a short consultation. Paid, of course." I didn't respond. Later that day, another text. "We'll double your rate. Just an hour of your time." Still nothing from me, because I didn't need to say anything. The silence was the message. And then came the email from Ethan. Subject line, "You won't believe this. Dana Troy has no idea what he's doing. 3 clients just reported major issues after the update. Logan's freaking out. Joseph's trying to fix it, but no one can make sense of your system. Everyone's walking on eggshells. Just thought you should know. I miss having you here." I sat at my kitchen table and read it twice. Not because I needed clarity, but because it made something settle inside me. A realization I'd been circling but hadn't quite let in. They weren't just falling apart. They were falling apart because I wasn't there. And that wasn't about ego. That was about the truth. Later that night, Valerie called. "They've reached out," she said. "Quantum's legal team wants to discuss a formal consulting arrangement." He blinked. "Already?" "They're desperate. Their product's on fire." I took a slow breath and looked out the window. "So we wait?" "We wait," she said. "Let them feel the pressure. Let them realize what they threw away." I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. 5 years ago, I would have jumped at the chance to be useful, to fix it, to save the team. But now I wasn't the one begging for a seat at the table. I was the one holding the blueprint. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing validation. I was the value. The first real sign that things were falling apart didn't come from Logan or Joseph. It came from the silence. No more texts, no more calls, no more polite offers for a quick consultation. Just nothing. And that kind of nothing is never quiet. It hums with panic. It screams behind closed doors. It grows in every hour their product keeps crashing, in every unanswered support ticket, in every angry client email they can't explain away. I started checking their Twitter account. It was chaos customers complaining about downtime, bugs, data sync failures. The same bugs I warned them about months ago, before they told me they were bringing in someone with more experience. Then came the investor blogs. Rumors. Quiet leaks. The kind of whispers that don't stay whispers for long in Silicon Valley. Quantum Shift's once rising stock had dipped. First by 5%, then 10%, and by the end of that week, it dropped another 7%. I didn't reach out. I didn't celebrate. I just watched. Then, late one evening while I was making dinner, my phone buzzed. It was Valerie. "You're not going to believe who just called me." I already knew. "Quantum Shift's legal department," she said, her voice cool. "They want to negotiate a consulting agreement." I paused, wiping my hands on a towel. "That fast?" "They're flailing. They need you. Badly. What's your advice?" "Let them sweat a little longer. Every hour that passes puts you in a stronger position." I smiled. It wasn't about making them beg. It was about making them see. The next morning, I sat by the ocean with my laptop open, sifting through job listings I had no intention of applying for. Not because I didn't want to work again, but because I needed to understand the market, my leverage, my value. By the following week, my phone started ringing again. Joseph, Troy, even Ethan. This time, their voices were different. No more polished words, no more friendly tone, just panic. Troy, the engineering expert they brought in to replace me, couldn't make sense of my system. He tried rewriting parts of the authentication layer and ended up breaking the whole user flow. 3 major clients threatened to walk, and Logan, silent. Until one morning, 4 weeks to the day since I packed up my desk, finally called. "Dana," he said, voice stiff, like he was forcing it through clenched teeth. "I think there may have been some misunderstanding around your departure." I didn't say anything. "We'd like to bring you back on just for a short-term consultation to help the team with the transition." That word again. Consultation. I almost laughed. "I'm not interested," I said. Calm. Simple. "We're offering a significant fee," he added. "High 6 figures, just a few weeks of work. I'm quite busy at the moment," I replied, echoing the same line I gave Joseph. "Dana, be reasonable." But I had already ended the call. I picked up the phone again, and this time I was the one dialing. "Valerie," I said. "Logan just offered me 6 figures." She didn't even blink. "Perfect. Because we're about to hit them with something better." She'd been digging. Quietly. Strategically. "Did you know," she said, "that Logan's been telling the board your authentication system was his idea? That he presented it to the investors as part of his original vision?" My stomach turned cold. What? I have a contact on the board. Apparently, Logan took credit for your work during the Series A pitch. Your system was the linchpin. They were sold on you. They just didn't know it. It shouldn't have surprised me, but it did. Dismissal was one thing. Erasure was something else entirely. What's our next move? We wait one more week. Then we send formal notification of retained IP rights. Can we do that? You didn't build that system on company time, Dana. You started it before you ever signed their contract, and you have the GitHub history to prove it. It wasn't work for hire, it was yours. I sat in silence, heart pounding. 5 years ago, I joined Quantum Shift with a dream. Now, I held the power to end it, and I wasn't going to waste it. It was exactly 5 weeks to the day since I left Quantum Shift when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I certainly wasn't expecting her. Olivia Harris, lead investor at Threshold Ventures, one of the big names behind our Series A. She was standing on my front porch in a gray coat, holding a leather briefcase and wearing an expression that didn't match any version of her I'd seen in those polished investor meetings. "Miss Whitaker," she said, calm but direct. "Apologies for the unexpected visit, but this couldn't wait. May I come in?" I stepped aside. She sat on my couch like someone who'd stopped asking for permission long ago. "I'll be honest with you," she said. "Quantum Shift is in trouble. The authentication system is failing, and no one at the company seems to understand how it works." I didn't say a word. "But that's not the real reason I'm here," she continued. "The real reason is what we just found out," Logan told the board, "that he designed that system, that you were simply part of the implementation team." I laughed. A small, bitter laugh I didn't mean to let out. Olivia didn't flinch. "Our advisors have reviewed everything they could, and it's clear now you were the architect, not him." I leaned forward slowly. "So, what do you want?" "I want you to come to the emergency board meeting tomorrow. Tell the truth. Help us understand what's really going on. In return, I promise your work will be acknowledged properly this time." I paused. "I'm going to need legal protection." She nodded. "Bring your attorney. This isn't about backdoor deals. This is about saving a company from collapse." After she left, I called Valerie. "This is early," she said, "but potentially perfect. What about the IP notice? We'll send it tonight. So when you walk into that room, they'll already know they're standing on unstable ground." That night, I couldn't sleep. Because tomorrow, I wasn't just showing up. I was taking back the narrative. When I walked into the Quantum Shift boardroom the next morning, it looked exactly the same. Same table, same chairs, same glass walls. But everything had changed. This time, people stood when I entered. Even Logan. Valerie was beside me, calm and poised. The board members were there, Olivia, Victor Lee, and 2 others I didn't know as well. The executive team sat along the other side. Joseph looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Troy wouldn't meet my eyes. Logan tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Whitaker," Olivia began, "thank you for coming. And this must be your attorney?" "That's right," Valerie said, placing her briefcase on the table. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "She signed an employment contract. All work belongs to Quantum Shift." "I'm aware of what I signed," I said evenly. "But the authentication system in question was built before I joined the company. I have proof, and GitHub timestamps don't lie." Victor Lee leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Is this true, Logan? Were you aware of this?" Logan's jaw tightened. "She's exaggerating. Maybe she had some early code, but everything critical was done on company time." Valerie didn't even blink. "We'd like to show the board some evidence." I connected my laptop to the display. First, the commit history. Dates, commits. Then, the early email where I told Logan I'd bring my system into the company's product as a foundation. Then, The pitch decks, the ones Logan used in the investor meetings. My system, labeled as proprietary innovation, credited solely to Logan. The silence was thunderous. Joseph finally spoke. I can confirm Dana built that system. I was there. No one else could have written that architecture. Not even me. Logan turned to him, furious. You're siding with her? Joseph didn't answer. Olivia folded her hands. Logan, did you knowingly misrepresent the technical origins of this system? I supervised its development, he said tightly. Supervision, I said quietly, is not creation. A pause. Then Victor leaned back. We're calling a private recess. We'll reconvene in 20 minutes. Valerie and I stepped outside. She looked at me. They're deciding his fate right now. When we returned, Olivia stood. After careful discussion, the board has made the following decisions, she said. First, effective immediately. Logan Merritt is stepping down as CEO of Quantum Shift. Logan rose to protest, but she continued. Second, Dana Whitaker will be offered the role of Chief Technology Officer with equity compensation and full credit for her past contributions. My breath caught. And third, she said, turning to me, we are proposing a licensing agreement for the authentication system, with royalties paid to you on all future revenue tied to its use. Valerie nodded slowly. Those terms are acceptable. Logan stood, shaking his head. You're making a mistake. You're handing over the company to someone who held us hostage. No, I said, eyes level. I just refuse to be erased. Victor's voice was calm, but firm. Logan, you may choose to remain as an advisor, or you can walk away. Logan didn't reply. He simply left the room, the door closing hard behind him. I stood still for a moment, letting the weight of it settle. 5 weeks ago, they dismissed me with a click. Now, I was the one holding the keys. And I wasn't just back. I was rewriting the ending. 3 months after the boardroom showdown, I stood on a small stage inside the Quantum Shift headquarters. The walls were the same. The branding hadn't changed. But everything else had. The air was different, now quieter, calmer, but more alert. People looked me in the eye when they passed in the hall. They smiled, not out of obligation, but because they knew. They knew the story. They knew the shift. And Dana Whitaker, once erased, once discarded, was now standing at the center. Today, I said into the mic, marks more than a product release. Today is about restoration, about doing things differently. I looked out over the crowd. Employees, engineers, a few press faces. Valerie was in the back, arms folded, smiling that quiet, knowing smile of hers. We're not just pushing an update, I continued. We're rebuilding a foundation, one where no single person holds the keys, where the architecture is open, accessible, and shared. Behind me, the screen displayed the new system diagrams restructured, collaborative, fully documented. No more hidden shorthand, no more one-person dependency. I had trained a team. I had made sure they understood not just how the system worked, but why I built it that way in the first place. The applause at the end wasn't thunderous. It didn't need to be. It was real. Later that day, Olivia pulled me aside. The turnaround was impressive, she said. User complaints are down 87%. 2 major clients returned this week. And the board? They're calling this the cleanest pivot they've ever seen. I didn't know what to say. Because deep down, I wasn't chasing a turnaround. I was chasing something else. Wholeness. It was a team effort, I said. True, she replied. But your leadership made it possible. As we walked through the new engineering wing, I thought back to the girl I was 5 years ago coding, in the back of a warehouse, too afraid to push back, too desperate to prove herself. She wouldn't have believed any of this, but maybe she'd be proud. Then, As the day was winding down, an email arrived in my inbox. From Logan. It was short. Dana, I owe you an apology. I should have recognized your contributions instead of trying to claim them. The company is in better hands now. Logan. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I needed an apology, but because some part of me still needed to hear it. And then I typed, Logan, thank you for the apology. I wish you clarity and success in whatever comes next. Dana. That was it. No gloating, no bitterness, because by then, I had nothing left to prove. That night, I sat on my balcony as the city lights came on one by one. The same skyline I'd stared at countless times while feeling invisible. Now, it looked different. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. This was about reclaiming space, about saying, I was here, and I mattered. And now, no one could take that away from me.